Hi, this is Coach Dan Williams with Character Advantage, and I'm going to share with you one thing that if I could go back in time, I would go back today and do it different because if I did, it would save me a lot of time. Now, I am a coach at the elite level. I also have a player who's on the elite pathway, and they are now at the end of that journey playing at Division One level, and they're looking to graduate in a year, and so we're so excited for them. But looking back on my journey, I want to share with you this one thing that if today I could go back in time, I would do different. But before I do that, I want to take us back in time to that first moment when coaches, said, "Hey, there's something special in your player that we see, and we want to invite you on this elite journey." And I remember the meeting, my wife and I, along with many other parents, and the coaches were there sharing that our players were chosen, that they selected our players to be invited into this elite experience at our local soccer club. And of course, as a parent, I was thrilled, but also as a coach, it wasn't anything that was shocking or new to me. I knew that my player had this potential, but it was fun to kind of hear that pitch from them. But it really began to set off in me this tension between, really what were we giving up when we committed to this elite pathway? What were the challenges that we didn't even know we didn't know yet? And a lot of those things led me to describing what I felt in that moment as this tension between potential and time. The tension of I wanted my player to fulfill their potential, but then also the tension that comes with we only have so much time. So how are we going to leverage this time? If we turn down this opportunity, will we ever get it again? All the things that come with time. And so those two armies that I've described, these two opposing forces in many ways that create all this anxiety and tension, I began to see very clearly. And my intent with Character Advantage is to show a way through those two tensions of potential and time. One of the things that I want to share with you, just as something I picked up when we think about potential, is kind of the two ways we think about it. One way we think about potential is with a lot of passion. It's intuitive. We are passionate about it. It's instinctive. Our emotions are a part of our thinking. And that drove a lot of the decision making that I would have when it would come to my player. But there's another level of thinking that I want to share with you that I began to realize I needed to think more through, and that was more of a patient and kind of methodical and a way of stepping back and really kind of reflecting, not getting caught up in the emotion of the moment, but really taking a step back and really kind of trying to see the truth in the moment. And that was a different level of thinking, a different way of kind of really slowing down my cognitive approach and not trying to get caught up in the moment and the emotions, and being more reflective, kind of thinking it through better. And that thinking didn't come naturally. I had to really work on that level of thinking when it came to my player. But when I would think through that process and think in that way, it was a good balance to the other way of thinking that was much more passion oriented. So I kind of describe that ways of thinking as one's a passion oriented way of thinking, and the other is a truth oriented way of thinking. Really trying to think through what's the black and white, what do you see as the evident truth there in that moment. And so both of those are important. Both of those ways of thinking are important as a player, as a parent, and also as a coach. And so in this moment that I first discovered others saw the potential in my player was very early in their development, and we were invited to be part of this elite pathway because they saw promise in our player, and we were thrilled as parents. And of course, we were very passionate in the moment, but it wasn't long before we had to really process through and really kind of deal with some truths that came with this elite pathway. And some of those truths include, is it wise to specialize in a sport at a very early age? How about the financial, commitment that we were making? Was it wise to spend all our money in one place and put all of our time into something that would be so intense? All of these were challenging questions that we had to ask and answer over our journey together. Now, the one thing that I learned that I wish if I could go back in time that I would do different comes to video. Now, when you are on the sidelines, all you have to do is turn your head to the right or to the left, and you will see, so many different ways that people are capturing on film their player. It could be their phone. It could be, a video camera of some type. And there are so many different organizations and clubs now that are putting money into different automated systems and ways to track and capture the game. And they have all these cameras that are up on poles. And of course, it's subscription based. And so they're passing those fees on to us as parents. There's so many different ways that we are now capturing on film our players as they're playing their sports. What do we do with all that footage? Now, when I go back in my own experience, I didn't really understand as well as I should have my opportunity in that moment. The way I looked at it was all that film was going into the library somewhere, and that one day when my player got to the level that they were now being recruited for college, that we would go back into all that footage and we would extract and pull out the best plays, and we would create our highlight video. How wrong I was. I was so wrong, because the reality was that's true. All the footage was there, but there's so much footage. I didn't know where to go. I couldn't remember which game was the one with the final, the great shot. Which game was the one with the great pass? All of those things are so. I spent so much time going through hours and hours and hours worth of film. And what I should have done was, after every game, just taken one or two highlights. That's it. Make it that simple. If I would have just taken, this was a great pass. This was a great run. This was a great combination. This was a great defensive move. This was a great attacking move. This was a goal. Whatever it was, just one thing, just one clip from that, and then post it on social media, put it on the YouTube channel, put it on the Instagram post, wherever we were building their social media presence. If I would have just put that one little clip there and moved on, over time, I would have created that highlight. You know, that highlight video would have been self-created over time. And it would have saved me so much time if I would have done that. Because in the moment, while it's fresh, I would have captured it, limit it to one or two things, post it, and move on. Because the reality is you don't have the time, you know, to go back and go through all of that. And you will never capture all the moments, you know. But if you do it over a period of time, you will collect so many great moments, and also create something maybe that you'll look back with fondness and with great memories someday later in time. So that's my tip for you. Now, coming back to this experience that we've had, you know, with my daughter on her journey as an elite player, you know, we were faced with some difficult, you know, questions and difficult challenges. And, you know, we know the facts just like everybody else does. How few actually make it. Most don't. A lot quit. You end up spending more money than perhaps you'll ever get back in a scholarship. All of those things are true. And all of those things we discovered in our own way. But we didn't encourage our daughter to pursue her passion and to fulfill her potential in this time that we had because the payoff was a scholarship. If that was the way that we thought about it, then we would be disappointed. And the reality is, I had to begin to think through, well, what is my goal? What is our goal as a family? Why do I want my player to fulfill their potential? And I have a second daughter whose potential wasn't fulfilled on a field, but whose potential was fulfilled somewhere else. And so how do I help them? And the reality is that when you discover your player or your child and they have a passion and a gift for something, what we want to do as nurturing parents is we want to try to afford them the best opportunity possible to fulfill that gift to its fullest potential. Not for the sake of that potential only. Because this is the other secret that I discovered. When my player is developing the skill and fulfilling the gift and fulfilling the potential that they have in that gift, whatever it is, that when they pursue it with excellence, that when they apply themselves, when they develop themselves as a whole person, fully committed to the development of that gift, what they realize is that that gift prepares them for something else. You see, the reality is, even if my player was to go on and continue their career after their 4 years of collegiate sport, they would still only play a few more years. And what would that be in the totality of their life? You know, at the very most, it might be a third of their life. The majority of their life is going to be lived outside of their sport experience. And so what I realized as a parent was the reason why character is an advantage is because in the world of sport, we have this unique opportunity to really isolate some real fundamental tools and principles of life that we can help our player really strive and be the best that they can be in the sport that they're gifted in, and pursue as long as they can pursue that. But in their journey of pursuing that, it's going to prepare them for the next level of their life. And so we always want to encourage our player for the next level. You know, we want them to get better. We want them to spend their time training. We want them to focus on the hard work, the hard yards, the difficult challenges that come with applying yourself to something and getting better at it. And when we do, we begin to help them form the character that's going to be the advantage for them, not just in the sport that they're playing at this particular time of their life, but it's going to prepare them and give them an advantage for life at the next level.